You ever feel like you're just trying to do everything all at once, taking on too much and just completely failing to look after yourself in even basic ways? Maybe it's genuinely about helping other people, or maybe we feel like we're the best person for the job. Maybe we don't really trust other people to do as good a job as we know we would. Maybe there's a little bit of fear in there as well, fear that we might not be as indispensable as we'd like to be. Yeah, we could ask for help, but maybe we genuinely think we're doing other people a favor by protecting them from having to take on work. This is a superhero complex. It's not a psychological disorder, there's no clinical diagnosis, but it is a state in which we develop an unhealthy sense of responsibility. In this paper on burnout and sports coaches, one of the common themes was the need to be all things to all people all the time. And along with that sense of responsibility was the need to hide emotions and hold up a mask of stoicism despite internal struggles. Just like real life superheroes, you know what I mean, people with a superhero complex might find themselves taking on multiple roles without any thought of taking care of themselves or taking time to rest and recover properly, and a sense of guilt when they can't do everything. But acting like a superhero and taking on the weight of the world isn't really sustainable, and we end up with difficulty sleeping, lack of energy, spiraling thoughts, anxiety, and relationships can be affected too. But it is possible, once we notice what's going on, to do something about it. If you think that you might have a bit of a superhero complex, it's pretty likely that you say yes to things before you've had time to really consider the implications. But if we can recognize when we're thinking quickly, when our impulse to help is what's driving us rather than a realistic assessment of the situation, we can ask ourselves a few questions that might help. Who'll benefit from me taking on this responsibility? What are the consequences for me and other people if I don't take this on? Is there somebody else who could do it? Would somebody else benefit from the opportunity? Is somebody better qualified or better positioned than I am to take this on? Asking ourselves these questions and giving ourselves honest answers takes a degree of humility, yes, but learning to say no can be transformational. Would you think less of a close friend if they admitted that they were struggling? Would you think of them as weak if they asked for help? Probably not, if we're honest with ourselves. So can we consider extending the same kindness to ourselves rather than trying desperately to live up to our ideal superhero selves? Can we look more rationally at what's a more realistic, what's a more sustainable ideal self? What's an ideal self that allows us to live the type of life that we want to lead rather than the life that we think we should lead or that other people think we should lead? Developing a superhero complex doesn't only mean that we take on more and more. It also means that we have a need to do everything perfectly. There are times when good can be good enough, and really thinking about what that looks like for any particular task can be helpful. But crucially, can you accept your version of good enough? There's often a lack of trust that underpins this reluctance to seek help when we need it. So being deliberate about building your inner circle can help to develop your support network. Be specific about your needs and consider who might be able to support those needs, not necessarily people in the same field of work as you. Then it's a case of being bold and clearly communicating those needs to those around you so that you can get the support that you need. We have to acknowledge that yes, there will be times when we're busy and stressed, and there'll be times when things do slide, like our exercise, our nutrition, or our social lives. But we can't have nothing. Our work can be important to us and it can be a big part of our identity, but it can't be everything. So it's important to consider what your self-care non-negotiables are. If you haven't got time for your usual exercise routine, what's the minimum you'll accept? If you have to work late, what's the latest you're prepared to stay in the office before you'll call it a day? Setting those boundaries and writing them into your daily or weekly plan is an essential element of any self-care plan. A culture of celebrating overwork makes it difficult for those with a superhero complex to step back and address some of the issues that cause stress and burnout. But if we can recognize the signs of developing a superhero complex, there are a number of things that we can do to practice a bit of self-care and bring a bit more balance to our lives.